a really hard time operating this business, complying and with the banking system and, with the accounting and with the taxes. And I know everyone, and it's really hard. It has taken me 7 years, to actually, be able to take this business model to retail. So we started operations 2016, 17. So it's been like 7 years of proof of work. So we can get to this point.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Bitfinex Talks. I'm your host, Ricardo Martinez. Today, my guest is José Flores, who is the founder and CEO of CapitalX. Jose, thank you for coming on the show, man. How are you doing?
Hi, Ricardo. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And yeah, glad to be here.
Where are you? You have a beautiful background behind you.
Thank you. I'm in San Miguel de Allende. It's a small town in the heart of Mexico. So, yeah, we're here trying to orange peel some art galleries and whatnot. So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I've actually heard that San Miguel de Allende has like a pretty significant Bitcoin community.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, there's a lot of foreigners, so I think that's why. I think a lot of places in Mexico where there's a lot of like expats, there's a strong Bitcoin community. I would love to see more Mexicans get involved, but like for now, there's more foreigners that actually get what actually get what Bitcoin is all about. And yeah, I think one of the biggest barriers that I've seen is there's just not enough quality information for Bitcoin only in Spanish. So that's why I think that's the main hurdles that we're trying to overcome.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I know that there's starting to become more information available in Spanish, like especially since El Salvador has like passed the Bitcoin law. I've seen like a lot more interest from the Latin American Bitcoin community, but you're right, it is very, very limited compared to English. I wanted to ask you, for those who aren't familiar, can you explain what CapitalX is?
Yeah, so the way I describe it is just like a Bitcoin one-stop shop for anyone in Mexico wanting to live under the Bitcoin standard. Like we offer everything someone would need to, live their normal life with Bitcoin without having to actually have a bank account. Um, so of course, we do on-ramps and off-ramps via the Space system, which is the kind of like the local banking system here in Mexico. But then we also offer the option for someone that doesn't have a bank account to be able to operate using a Visa prepaid credit card. And we also facilitate for business to accept payments in Bitcoin. And we do the conversion to Mexican pesos. So we've seen that that's a really good approach to like get the business owners like get them started. It's like we guarantee the exchange rate. So even when they are charging their customers, like for example, 4,000 pesos, and they will get 4,000 pesos via wire transfer. So for them, it's just like another payment method like PayPal or using like whatever, and it's even better because we don't charge any commission to them, so they receive 100% of whatever they're charging. And then we have the option where we have like a toggle where you can like decide, okay, if my profit is 20% of what I sell, you can be like, okay, keep 20% in Bitcoin and then sell 80% to fiat. So our vision is to make business owners accept it, and then with time they will get down the rabbit hole and start moving that toggle all the way to 100%, keep 100% in Bitcoin. Yeah, and then the latest and I think I would say is like our biggest business. All the other stuff I see it as just like a services, but our main business is Bitcoin back loans. I mean, it's nothing new in the industry, but in Mexico, like with the Mexican currency, we're the only ones right now doing it. So that's kind of our model. It's, Bitcoin back loans, payment processing, on ramp and off ramp with fiat, and then the Visa cards, and we're implementing some other stuff as we speak. But basically, that's the core of the business model.
Okay, that's super interesting. So you guys have like a full suite of merchant services, but then you also have like a full suite of services for consumers that are looking to like spend Bitcoin and use Bitcoin in their day-to-day lives as well.
Exactly. And also, of course, we're integrated with the Lightning Network, and we have we're Bitcoin only. So we have only Bitcoin, USDT, and MXNT, which are the two stable coins from Bitfinex. So those are kind of like the fiat, let's say, tokens, and then we have Bitcoin.
I know Mexico is like a pretty big economy for Latin America. What level of adoption would you say there is for crypto, like among Mexican citizens?
So for crypto, I would say it's actually quite high, crypto in general. But the problem is like what we've seen is that there's a lot of shit coins or like other crypto projects. But the problem is like there's a lot of fraud. Like actually, I've seen a lot of people like I would say you know a lot of people have been scared because there's a lot of fraud involved. I think communities in Latin America and in Africa, there's just like a lot of this stuff going on in not just in crypto, in any other industry you move to. I guess it's part of the culture. So what we've seen is that people don't actually haven't spent the time and the haven't done the work of actually understanding Bitcoin and why Bitcoin and all of that. So that's why they get lost in different crypto projects and a lot of fraud. Like just to give you an example, I have a client where we always teach them not your keys, not your coins, don't leave the Bitcoin with us. And so I had this client, I gave him his Trezor. He said I helped him set it up and send the Bitcoin to his wallet. And then I saw the guy 3 years later. And I'm like, hey man, like how you been doing? Like, are you excited? Are you happy with your investment? And he's like, hey, you know what, dude? I lost everything. Like I transferred to someone that was gonna give me yield on my Bitcoin, and they just vanished. So, it's just like I guess Bitcoin is boring and people are looking for more excitement, and that's where they get lost.
I think
So
it comes
back
down to
to
time preference.
yeah, exactly. And I also think it's about education, like knowing how the technology works and just doing the work. Because at the end of the day, it's proof of work. And so there's some adoption. I would say definitely there's a lot of adoption, but more inclined towards crypto than towards Bitcoin.
Okay. And CapitalX, like I know Mexico is a huge recipient of remittances. Like, are you guys seeing any of this remittance like commerce happening like through the platform? Are people like choosing to use crypto to send money like back from the United States or Europe or anywhere else?
Yeah, so we use Lightning, and definitely we'll be trying to attack that market. But I think that there's lack of marketing, I would say, from the US side to teach users on that side to say, hey, you can use like Cash App or Strike or Bitcoin Well or whatever like application there in the US to get onboarded and get stats and then send it to CapitalX and then offboard them here. So, right now we're doing a lot of work with Viva Bitcoin. These guys are helping and seeing like how we can like make that process easier for everybody. But at the end of the day, the guys sending the money, they're the guys who have the final word. So if they tell someone in Mexico, hey, if you want to receive money, you need to use CapitalX and download it, and I'll send you the stats there. And so they will comply. But I think so we don't operate in the US. So we need like, I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity, but right now a lot of people are using USDT instead of Lightning. And I think it's because like Strike and Cash App and all those guys. I think they should put a little bit more focus onto that and like actually teach people on how to onboard or how to send funds to Latin America using their platform. So yeah, to back to the questions, there's not so much flow as we would like to because the market is huge, and I think it's because of lack of information in the U.S. side. Um, we've seen a lot more of USDT than Bitcoin, to be honest. Uh, but uh, but yeah, I think it's we're working for that, and we'll get there for sure. I think it's just a matter of time.
Another question I have is Mexico's currency is a bit stronger than other currencies in Latin America. Like Mexico doesn't have quite the same kind of inflation that we see in places like Argentina or Colombia or Venezuela. Do you think that because the peso is more stable than other currencies in the region, that that has kind of like held back people from seeking out alternatives like Bitcoin or USDT?
Well, maybe for store of value, but like even to receive a payment from the outside of Mexico or to send a payment outside of Mexico, I mean, it's very limited. Like if you don't have good banking connection, it's going to be very, very expensive. Like even if
Mhm.
you manage to do the transaction. So I think there's a lot of people using USDT for that, to for international settlement. Um, and the Mexican peso has been stable in recent years, but like if you go back, for example, to Carlos Salinas de Gortari, they took I think two zeros out of the currency. So
Mm.
we've had devaluations, but the problem is that the guys who lived through that, there are other generation and they're not as tech oriented. So yeah, I mean, for now it's been stable, and I think that plays a part where people have not seeked uh, other, you know, technologies as a store of value. But for international trade, I think there's quite the volume, in USDT and in Bitcoin. I've seen a lot of volume in Bitcoin for Asia, where I think they're a little bit more. Uh, so it's more like big industry and more tech savvy people, and the remittance market is just like retail. So I think that's like the big difference on the flows. Like retail in the US, they still haven't realized they can use this technology for remittance, while the guys in Asia, they're using it right now.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And another question I have is in Latin America, we see this phenomenon of people that work remotely for companies that are in the US or Europe. And a lot of times they receive their pay in Bitcoin or in USDT. Uh, since you guys have like a debit card and this on and off ramp service, like, have you guys seen a lot of interest from remote workers in Mexico?
Yes. So the card, we're actually about to launch it. We've been doing the beta test, so we're launching like probably next month. So we haven't seen a lot of that yet, because for now, like if you want to use our system, you need a bank account. But starting next month, that wouldn't be the case. So of course that's why we're here, and we're planning on marketing to all the expats living here in Mexico, or people just working here to use that. I mean, getting the debit card is just like very basic KYC, and from there you can use it in Mexico in pesos, and not having to worry about the exchange rate between dollars and pesos and all of that. So you just go from Bitcoin to pesos, and then you use the card. So that's definitely a market we're trying to attack. And like you said, like in Mexico City after COVID, like there's just a lot of people coming to Mexico because you earn dollars and you spend pesos. Like the quality of your life goes through the roof compared to living in the US or UK or somewhere like that. And so yeah, I think that's part of our target audience, and we're definitely, anyone out there, please use our app and send any feedback. We'll be glad to help and make your Bitcoiner life easy.
Okay. And the app that you just mentioned, is it available on Android and iOS or just Android or just iOS? Like, how can people find the app and start using it?
So the app is on both stores. For iOS, you need to be in Mexico, so it's like geo limited. For Android, you can download it anywhere in the world, and we also have our website, which you can use anywhere in the world.
What are the regulations like in Mexico currently? I remember like a couple years back, they passed like a fintech bill or something, and people were saying that crypto would be regulated, I guess, under the fintech bill. But has there been any progress in Mexico on the regulatory front?
Yeah, so like you said, they passed the fintech law, and in there they mentioned like virtual assets. That's a word they use in the whole law. But then at the end of the law, they give the faculty to the Bank of Mexico to decide like, okay, out of all the cryptos, like which ones are going to be considered on this law, and the Bank of Mexico basically just said none of them. So you have this kind of like like weird scenario where the law has passed on both chambers and it's in effect, but then you have this circular from the Bank of Mexico saying like, hey, like no financial institution can offer any virtual asset to their clients. So I mean, it was a shame. Well, who knows if it was going to be a good law or not, because I really worry about other cryptos like really hurting this industry and like getting fraud and like like the Bank of Mexico probably will get other Bitcoin, other cryptos, not just Bitcoin involved. So I don't know if that's smart. I think El Salvador was really on point on making sure that anything that's not Bitcoin is considered a security. So the current law in Mexico, it doesn't specify that. So I don't think it's the best law we can have. But going back to your question, so basically right now anyone in Mexico can operate without any type of financial or like any type of financial license. Uh, the only thing you need to comply, of course, is the anti-money laundering laws, which are very hard in Mexico. You need compliance officer and you need to send reports when all a certain transaction meets certain thresholds. You need to do KYC, like all of that for sure. So basically, that's the only law you need to comply. But to operate, the other side is like if you want a banking connection, is really hard to get because like banks don't want to touch that like with a 10-foot stick. Like nobody wants to touch that. So it's really hard to actually being able to operate. Also, there's like a lot of lack of information on the accounting side, on the like fiscal side, on the taxes. So it's kind of gray area. So I see myself like kind of as a entrepreneur, just trying to teach the government that it can be done in the right way and that they should actually regulate it properly, so they can also benefit from all of this.
Are you optimistic with the new president's administration? I know that Mexico just had a recent election. Like, do you think now that someone new's in the presidency that perhaps there will be favorable regulation like passed during the administration?
So the good news is that they have complete control over the country. Well, it's not good news, but I mean, the good news is that if they want to do it, they can do it pretty easily. But she hasn't talked about this at all, so I'm not sure it's in her agenda. I haven't seen anybody on her team like talking about this or anything. Uh, but I'll definitely do my best and try to orange peel people around her and see if we can push something. But I think it's the right time. The U.S. is moving really fast, and usually Mexico follows the U.S.
Mhm.
So, hopefully, once the U.S. Starts making it more clear, I think we're gonna move in the same direction. Uh, and she has everything she needs to make it happen. So I'm optimistic because I think the game theory is gonna kick in, and everybody is gonna get on board.
For merchants, you guys mentioned that CapitalX has merchant services. Have you seen a lot of interest from merchants looking to onboard so that they can accept Lightning payments or on-chain Bitcoin or USDT?
To be honest, no, because I mean there's even not a lot of volume. Like for example,
Mhm.
we have, I don't know, like around 50 or 60 places where you can pay with Bitcoin in Mexico, but there's very low volume. But the way I see it is just marketing. If someone goes to a restaurant and they see like we accept Bitcoin on the entrance, that gets them thinking. Definitely gets them thinking. And for me, it's just like a marketing effort for now. Also for the restaurant, if they put on social media, we accept Bitcoin. It's kind of trendy, it's cool. So, they get the benefit of that. But like, there's very little volume. So the way we've convinced like merchants right now is like there's no cost for them involved. Like there's zero cost for them involved. Maybe just a little, like teaching the employees on how to do it, but it's very easy. Like we use BTC Pay server on our backend, so I think your audience will be familiar with that. So it's pretty easy to use. Uh, we don't like using POSs because they're always fail. Like, and that's always the excuse for the cashier to not to accept Bitcoin. So we have like a QR code, and that QR code is a link to a BTC Pay server URL where they can just charge. So you can use the client's phone or the server phone or the manager phone or any device around to make that payment. So we've seen that work better than POS systems. Um, so so yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's very little volume still. But what I always say to merchants is like you need to be on top of this because this is going to change really fast. Like we say, it's going to be slowly and then suddenly. So once it starts, once it switches, I think the places that they were the first to accept it in the city are going to be like remembered always, and they're gonna like the Bitcoiners are gonna have like that kind of special place in their heart for those places. So and they have nothing to lose. And for them, like with Visa, I think they take 3%, whatever they're receiving. We give them 100%. So it's a no-brainer for them. For like merchants, it's very easy for them to get on board. And basically, to anyone that I've spent the time of convincing them, they've actually, implemented the system. The problem is that there's very little flow or very little people paying through that system.
Do you think that volatility is also like an issue? I know that people that operate businesses that are like strictly on Bitcoin have mentioned to me in the past that volatility is like something that's hard to deal with at first until they kind of get in the flow of things. Has that kind of maybe discouraged adoption?
So I would say that on the merchant side, it really doesn't because we guarantee the exchange rate. And
Mhm.
I would say that adoption of Bitcoin for sure. Uh, I don't think volatility, to be honest, is an issue because I think it's a feature. Volatility in Bitcoin is I see it as a feature. Uh, I think it's more just lack of information. Like people still distrust Bitcoin. They don't actually get it. They think it's not backed. I always get this like it's not backed by anything. Somebody can have a backdoor. So it's just the traditional arguments of someone that hasn't spent the time. I think it's because, like, as we said at the beginning, there's not enough information in Spanish for people to actually get this like quality signal information. I think there's a lot of noise, and in
Mhm.
English there is. So that's why you see like the English speaking world, like they have a lot way higher adoption than we do. But that being said, with AI and all of that, I think that's changing. Like BTC sessions, for example, they're like making they're like launching, I think, 2 videos or something a month in Spanish, and they're using AI for that. So I think that's going to change very fast. And we guys in Latin America, we move fast. We are on our feet, and we're very, very entrepreneurs. So I think as soon as the information is out there, the adoption is just going to go through the roof really fast as a store of value and also as international settlement. So yeah, I think volatility is a feature. I would say it's not a feature for a merchant, but since they have the option with us to like fix the exchange rate, they don't really need to worry about that, you know. So yeah, I see it more as a feature than a bug.
Okay. And aside from Mexico City, like where are the other like crypto hotspots within Mexico?
So I would say definitely Monterrey. That's where we're based, northeast of Mexico, which is like the industrial heart. There's a big uh, crypto community there. Merida also, there's a lot of foreigners there, and I've seen like I think probably like Mexico City and Merida are two biggest ones. Guadalajara also, yeah, they have a huge community there. Like Guadalajara is great because they're just not Bitcoiners; they're developers. Like they're working on the actual tech, on the open source tech, Lightning, all of this. So that's really exciting to see. And now, actually, we were just in an event in La Paz where the ASO Bitcoin from El Salvador kind of like put everything together, and we were all there, and we tried to orange peel La Paz. There's some community there. I think it's growing, and I think all of Baja is a great like target place for companies like us or you guys, Bitfinex. Like there's a huge market there of foreigners, and so yeah, I think those places are definitely the hottest in Mexico right now. San Miguel is kind of like a niche thing. It's a very small town, not a big. I mean, it's a big community compared to the size of its population, but like compared to other places, it still has ways to go.
And like in the tourism industry in Mexico, I know it's very, very big and it's a huge part of the economy. Like in these places like Baja or like Cancun or Acapulco, where people go on vacation, like, is there any interest from the merchants, like in these tourist hotspots, to accept Bitcoin or crypto to kind of cater to tourists from abroad?
Yeah, so what we've seen is like a lot of peer-to-peer kind of like networks develop where it's cash based. So you go there like in Cancun, and there's people that will give you cash for your Bitcoin on the spot, or the other way around. So I've seen a lot of like this kind of like peer-to-peer networks develop, and I think the reason comes back to the KYC. It's like if a foreigner comes here, it's like, okay, I need to do a KYC with a Mexican entity so I can get onboarded. So that's kind of a hurdle.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the market is always very efficient. So there's definitely a lot of hotspots, like you said, Cancun and Baja, where there's peer-to-peer networks where they, they will give you cash on the spot for your Bitcoin for sure. And they're growing. And, hopefully we can bring those guys into the traditional like financial system in Mexico. But for that, we need a lot more clarity. So I hope the Mexican government understands this and make it easier for everyone to be able to offer these services to anyone coming to Mexico and make their life easier.
I know you guys are focused mainly on Mexico, but like, is CapitalX planning to expand to other Latin American nations within the region, or no?
No, not at all. Like, the vision that I have, it's more like kind of like the Lightning Network, like nodes. I see myself as a node in Mexico, and I'd rather connect with other nodes in other countries for liquidity so we can move value between our countries. But like here in Mexico, my family has been here for many generations, and we know I probably know anybody in Mexico, or I'm like one hop away from anybody in Mexico. So, and that being said, like I really had a really hard time operating this business, complying and with the banking system, and with the accounting and with the taxes, and I know everyone, and it's really hard. It has taken me 7 years, to actually be able to take this business model to retail. So we started operations 2016, 17. So it's been like 7 years of proof of work, so we can get to this point. And I know everyone in Mexico. Imagine trying to me go to Colombia and try to do that where I don't know anybody. Like my odds of success are going to be very, very low. So that's why I'll leave that to someone in Colombia to do that, and then we can connect our nodes. We can open channels between us and move liquidity. And for me, I think the market in Mexico is huge. Adoption is very low, so we still have a lot of work to do here before I can even think about going to somewhere else.
A few years back, I remember that there was a headline that Electra, which is like one of the biggest chain stores in Mexico, started accepting Lightning. And a lot of Bitcoiners from outside of Mexico thought that that might have been like the like thing that got the ball rolling for adoption in Mexico. Is that still like a thing, or did that like sputter out?
So, for my understanding, is that Electra only takes Lightning online. Like if you go to the actual physical store, I don't think you can pay in Bitcoin. You can
Okay.
only do it online, and then you go and pick up whatever you order in the store. And so I think the reason is, Uncle Ricky. I'm a huge fan because he had the balls of like going out there and putting himself on the line and really making people understand like what's at stake here. But he has a bank, so he has all the regulators on his neck. So it's
Mhm.
hard for him to actually make all of these adoptions that he would want to do. And I think he's just like being conservative because he has a lot on the line. So the way I see it, I think it's going to be more people like us where we don't have as much as he does on the line, and we don't really depend too much on the government to go out there and show the government that this is the path forward and that they need to get on board, and then the ball is going to get rolling. So I really thank Uncle Ricky for making for being such a big voice and a loud microphone for Mexico, and for everyone to notice what's at stake. But now it's up to us guys to actually get the ball rolling, because I think he has his hands tied because of his business. It's hard for him to push the limit with the regulators. So that's for us to do.
Yeah, it's understandable. I think if Mexico does get on board with crypto, it will be like one of the leading forces in the entire like Western hemisphere for Latam.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I hope we can sit down with the this new administration and help them see how important it is for them, for Mexico, and for the world really to adopt this technology. So I think it's like I said, I think it's just a matter of time. And in the US, we have this like hawkish government trying to like pause all of this adoption and this technology. But hopefully, with the next administration, that's going to change. And I think that's definitely, it's gonna, light the fire under the feet of the Mexican administration to be like, either you get on board or you're gonna. I mean, like I always say, it's like they're gonna get on board at some point. It's like you want to get on board now and be on first class on the train, or you want to get on board, really late in the game and be like, on the roof of the train. So it's up to them. I hope they can understand that, and we'll do our best to make sure it happens. But I agree with you, like the size of the economy of Mexico and being close to the US and the remittance and all of that, like if we get this right, like Mexico can finally, break the shackles that we've been under for so many years and so many decades, and go back to the we have a saying like in Mexico we had the la época del oro, no, la era dorada, where they call it like that because there was actually gold in the market, like physical gold. So I hope the government understand this and we can get back to those times, because we have everything. We have the most valuable asset, which is youth. We have that. We have all the being the border with the U.S., access to the two oceans on both sides, and all the natural resources. So the only thing we need is just break free from the shackles, basically. And the only way to do that is to embrace this new technology.
Yeah, I would agree. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about CapitalX that is important for the audience to know?
I think the back-to-back model. I really like that, but people need to be aware that you need, like everything, you need to do proof of work. Like never take a loan to buy more Bitcoin. Like you need to really do your work. When you get a back-to-back, is so you can diversify and invest into other cash flow generating assets and all of that. But no, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything. Really excited. I mean, we've been working with you guys for quite some time, and to be honest, if it wasn't for USDT and MXNT, our business model wouldn't even be possible. So we are very thankful for what you guys have done in the industry, and I think you've helped a lot of small startups to be able to play on this game using stable coins without having to you know custody funds from the users and having to do like all this compliance and license and whatnot. So I'm really thankful with Bitfinex for what they've done in the industry, and I hope you guys continue to do that. Like for example, Keith, we use that all the time. Amazing technology you've developed. So keep up the good work, guys. Like I always say, sometimes we don't see the impact we're doing in the world, but it adds up definitely. So I think you guys, the whole community, owes a lot to Bitfinex, and I think the market somehow is saying that, and that's why you guys been doing so well. So congratulations for everything you guys are building.
Well, on behalf of the whole team, I will say thank you for those kind words. That's super nice of you. Thank you so much also for coming on the show, Jose, and taking time out of your day to tell us about CapitalX. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure, Ricardo, and thank you for your audience for taking the time also. So glad to see you, and hopefully we can meet in person some other time.